Hey there, future physicists. Have you ever thought about why your cup of coffee doesn't keep getting hotter forever? Or how a cold drink reaches the same temperature as the surrounding air? Well, that's the magic of the Zeroth Law of Thermodynamics at work. Let me introduce you to this mind-blowing idea that might sound simple but is super crucial to understanding temperature and thermal equilibrium. Now, the Zeroth law states that if two systems are each in thermal equilibrium with a third system, they must be in thermal equilibrium with each other. In simple terms, if A and B are in thermal balance with C, then A and B are also in balance with each other. It's like a game of the friend of my friend is my friend, but for temperatures. It's the foundation for everything we know about temperature measurement. Now, let's get deeper into how this works. Thanks to the Zeroth law, we can measure temperature. And when we use a thermometer, we are essentially using this law in action. You know how thermometers work, right? They measure temperature by coming into thermal equilibrium with the system they're measuring. So, if you put a thermometer in your soup, the thermometer and the soup will exchange heat until they both reach the same temperature. That's thermal equilibrium in action, and it's the reason your thermometer gives you a consistent, reliable reading. Without the Zeroth law, we wouldn't have an accurate way of measuring temperature, and that would be quite a disaster for everything from science experiments to your morning coffee. Alright, here's where the Zeroth law gets super interesting. The law tells us that temperature is not just some random number, it's a property that allows us to compare different systems. So, when you're comparing the temperature of a cup of tea with that of a cold glass of water, the Zeroth law guarantees that if they both reach thermal equilibrium with a third object, we can be sure they're at the same temperature. But it doesn't stop there. This law is fundamental for all the other laws of thermodynamics. Without it, we wouldn't have a solid starting point to understand how energy flows, how engines work, or even how refrigerators keep your food cool. So, why does this all matter in the real world? Well, the Zeroth law is behind some of the coolest technologies we use every day. For instance, think about your refrigerator. It works by maintaining a constant temperature, and to do that, it has to make sure the cold air inside is in thermal equilibrium with the food you store. The same idea is behind all climate control systems, from your home's air conditioning to industrial processes that require exact temperature control. And let's not forget about meteorology. The Zeroth law helps us understand how the atmosphere reaches thermal equilibrium with the Earth's surface, which is key for predicting weather patterns. Now, let's make things a little more interesting with a solve example. Imagine two bodies in thermal contact, one at 100 degrees Celsius and the other at 30 degrees Celsius. When these two bodies are allowed to exchange heat, they'll eventually reach thermal equilibrium. Using the Zeroth law, we can figure out their final temperature. Let's break it down step by step. We'll use the formula for heat transfer, Q is equal to m asterisk C asterisk delta T. Assume equal masses for simplicity. The heat lost by the hotter body equals the heat gained by the cooler body. So, for body A at 100 degrees Celsius and body B at 30 degrees Celsius, we set up the equation. Solving this, we find that the final temperature T_F is equal to 60 degrees Celsius. That's thermal equilibrium in action, and it's exactly what the Zeroth law predicts. So, to wrap up, the Zeroth law of thermodynamics might sound simple, but it's fundamental to understanding how temperature works. It tells us that temperature is a transitive property, making it possible to define and measure. From thermometers to refrigerators, the Zeroth law is the cornerstone of everything related to thermal equilibrium. And next time you're enjoying your coffee or adjusting the thermostat, remember, It's all about achieving balance thanks to the Zeroth law. Quick insight: understanding thermal equilibrium gives us the power to control temperatures everywhere, and the Zeroth law makes that possible.